If you're looking for a podcast that packs in sound property advice, as well as offering you an insight into making the world of property effective and ultimately work for you, you're in the right place. Hosted by Arsh, the original property rebel. He's written an Amazon bestseller, created the Property Investor app, the UK's first, and is an experienced property mentor. More importantly, he talks the talk and walks the walk.
Hi and welcome to another episode of The Property Rebel with your host Arsh. And in today's session we're going to be talking about a day in the life of an entrepreneur and what that kind of looks like. So before we do that, I want to say a quick hello and welcome to all listeners all around the world. Hopefully you're really enjoying the podcast and the value that I'm sharing. More importantly, if you like it, why don't you share, subscribe, and more importantly, why don't you leave us some reviews on the podcast store so that we get further up in the ranking, and I would really appreciate that. So let's get straight into it. A day in the life of an entrepreneur. Now, for those that have been in property, and certainly I can comment on this, is that it's never always easy and it's never always rosy. When we're talking about that, if we refer back to the title of my Amazon bestseller book, Boom, Bust and Back Again, which is again available on Amazon. That's not a plug, but I suppose it is. I've seen some good times in the boom. I've seen some really bad times where I nearly went bust, and I'm back again to tell the tale. So that's what I want to talk about in today's session, the day in the life of entrepreneur, because I speak to so many property investors that are either just starting out and they're saying, Arsh, I'm going to smash this. I'm going to, absolutely take the property market by storm, and I'm going to be financially free in 12 to 24 months. And I really love that ambition. I really love that passion. I really love that drive. And I'm not knocking for anyone. I'm not knocking anyone that has that belief. However, the one thing that I want to talk about in this session is the day-to-day struggles. And because it is tough, and you will get ups and downs, but it's about resilience. It's about keeping yourself going. It's about keep self-motivating. And self-motivation is probably the key here, because I'm going to talk to you about what I would consider a life cycle, because when we all start, we're all extremely excited. So everyone says, well, as a deal sourcer, I'm going to go and find below market value opportunities. And they say, great, okay. So they start looking. And the one thing I always say to anyone that comes on any training with me, treat property as a marathon and not a sprint. Think of it that you're in the duration here for the 26 miles and you're not running just 100 meters. Because the guys that start off out running as if they're running 100 meters, they're going to run out of steam very quickly. And apologies for referring this back to, almost like an athlete's terminology. Don't start sprinting out, making 100 phone calls within the first day, and then getting 90 no's and 10 maybes, and then thinking, at the end of day one, you're going to be thinking, this is hard. Because then you're going to start to question yourself. Then you're going to start to question, have I done the right thing? Is this really for me? And my question is, you haven't really given yourself the opportunity to actually succeed. You've given up at the first hurdle. Now, with property, there are going to be lots of testing times like this. And I get lots of testing times. Even up to today, I still question myself. There's some days where I think, I wish I still had, or I wish I had a 9 to 5 where I didn't have to really worry about anything. I'm in pilot, cruise control. I literally turn up, I do what's expected of me, and I can go home. I can switch off the phone. I don't have to look at emails, and that's it. And when I look at it, if I was working for someone else, that would probably be what my life is. But would it have got me to where I am today? Would it have got me all the comforts and the lifestyle that I lead today? No, it wouldn't have. So I have to think of the bigger picture. I have to think of my reason why. My reason why is my children, making sure that I leave them with a legacy and also a business that they can run or they decide what they do with, and it's not consuming all their time. So that's my kind of reason why. So going back to the life cycle. So first we start off, we're excited, then we get some knockbacks initially, then we potentially get an opportunity that comes through, and you start thinking, hang on, you know what? This is actually working for me. I've got someone that said yes. And hopefully some of you are probably listening to this and nodding away, thinking, you know what, this actually resonates with me. And then straight away, someone that says yes has now started, I'm going to turn this back to property. Just imagine that you're now looking for rent-to-rent opportunity. You've called loads of agents. Agents don't really understand it. And as a result of that, you've been using terminology like corporate let, long-term let, and you're a relocation company. Lots of agents said no. Then you go, oh, this is hard. You then start picking up the phone to some landlords who may have pain and motivation, and one of them says yes, or they think that they're interested, they want to meet you. You're thinking, hang on, this is working now. I've now kind of got my flow. You go and meet him, and then he kind of doesn't get it, and then you might have messed it up by saying the wrong thing to him, saying that you're a letting agent, or you're going to manage it, or you're going to put it on a management contract. And then you get back to stage one again. Oh, okay, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do this on a scale. Then you start practicing your pitch, and you start to get your pitch a little bit better. And then you start making calls again to these landlords, and landlords now start to understand you. And you think, hang on, this again is great. You know, give up the good for the great, and you start working towards it and think, okay. And then we're starting to get to the end of month one. So from the start of the journey to pretty much the end of the month one, and then you start to reassess your finances. And then you start to think, well, hang on, let me have a look at what I've generated this month. And for the first month, you may not generate anything. For the first few months, you may not generate anything. And you're thinking, well, hang on, I need to survive here. I need to live. I need to buy some food. And you think, oh my God, am I going to go bankrupt? Am I going to, how am I going to survive with no income? And this is where the panic sets in. A panic sets in, you think, oh, okay, do I need to look at another strategy? Is this strategy really for me? How long is it going to take for me to generate income? Now, I should say that before you start any strategy, you've got to be looking at it from a point of view that you've got to have sufficient income to survive initially for a minimum of 6 months, because any strategy that you do, whether it be a buy-to-let, single-let, HMOs, rent-to-rent, etc., they're all going to require capital from the outset, and they're not always going to produce cash flow from day one. So you need to think that how long am I going to be able to survive on my current savings or the money that I've already got, so that I'm not reliant on the income from that business. Because also the other thing that I've got to say is you are going to probably pump a lot of the money that you generate from the initial months back into the business, and this could be in terms of systems, it could be in terms of marketing, it could in terms of, when we talk about marketing, it could be leaflets, it could be letters, it could be traveling, whatever it may be. So as you can see, life of an entrepreneur is never always easy. People think, from the outset, people think, oh yeah, he's making money, but they don't think of all the things that's going on behind the scenes, all the knockbacks that you get in, all the no's, all the negative thoughts, all the thoughts that you're going through in your own mind, and you're talking yourself out of it. Just bear in mind that all the time that you're talking yourself out of it, this is time what I would consider is lost. Because time is lost that you could be using this negative energy and putting it into a positive perspective. So moving back on and you're thinking, oh man, is this bad? You should be thinking, okay, we haven't had any income or not had any income coming yet. What do I need to do? How do I need to ramp this up? And this is what you really need to be considering. If you're deal sourcing, if you're doing rent to rents, if you're looking for service accommodation units, whatever it may be, if you're looking to purchase properties to add onto your portfolio, you've now got to start thinking, once you've got yourself through that negative state, you've now got to pick yourself back up, and you've got to say, you know what, to be fair, I'm much better than this. I don't know why I get myself so down on it. And unfortunately, problem that we have when we get ourselves so down, we constantly reflect on what other people are doing. How many of you guys actually just sat on social media and thought, oh, okay, here's a guy as well. Oh, he's doing great. Oh yeah, he's just done this deal, he's done that deal. And you start to reflect and you start to think, well, hang on, if he's done that, why am I doing it? And we're comparing ourselves against each other. And I don't really understand why we do that. I don't compare myself against any of the other guys. I'll be honest, there's some guys that have come completely out of training and they've gone off and they've bought a site or they've done this, and I do kind of think, oh, okay, that's quite interesting. I don't give it too much thought, But I do think that's quite interesting. And I do sometimes question that if I had not gone on this journey alone, when I say alone, I could have used other people's money. I get people offer to lend me money even though I need it. Say, Arsh, I've got some funds. Could we do some stuff together? I've always said no. And the reason being is that I didn't really want to ever get into a joint venture partnership. I know that that won't work for everyone. I know that there are lots of people out there that do require funds. I'm not a matchmaker for that. I don't want to be in that position if something ever goes wrong, that someone comes back and says, oh, should put us together. So I've always said no to that. But I kind of think that if I'd accepted all the money that came in my path and people said, oh, okay, I've got these funds, can we work together? Just trying to think, where would that have left me today? Would I have been far better off? Would I have created far much more of a headache, etc.? So that is something that I kind of question, and that's probably the only part that I question in my property journey. And then we keep going along the way. We've got our first deal. Our first deal is going great. We then start working again, and then we start thinking, was that a fluke? Did we do that? Was that because of all the things that I've learned, or was that a fluke? And then we start going through the whole process again. And it is really a life of ups and downs. Now, the whole point of the podcast is not to beat yourself back up, not to beat yourself up. And the reason why I say that is because it is going to have lots of ups and downs. You are going to take lots of knocks. You are going to try and talk yourself out of it. That is all part of the process, unfortunately. We've got to think of all the people that have previously started something and given up and failed. But failure is part of the process, unfortunately. If you think of all the people around the world that have built significant global businesses, they have failed multiple times before they started to succeed. You got to think of people like Harrison Ford, one of the most famous actors. He didn't really start acting until he got into his 30s. He had previously been a carpenter. You got to think of some of the largest organizations around the world. Ray Kroc, who was the founder of McDonald's, he didn't really see success up until the age of 52. Up until that point, he was selling paper cups and milkshake mixers. You look at famous authors like J.K. Rowling, who was the author of Harry Potter. She didn't really find fame until the age of 30, up until the age of 31. And before that, she was a single mom on welfare, on benefit. So don't beat yourself up. If something's not succeeding, it doesn't mean that you're never going to not succeed. It just means that you've got to just dig in a little deeper, and all the no's and all the things that you think you're getting wrong, treat these as part of the process to get your yes. And every time I have a conversation with a vendor, and every time I have a conversation with an agent, I kind of record that call. Now, here's one of my top tips for you. Record the call if possible. Download an app. So have a look at what phone you've got and see which app you can use to download, and have a look and see how was that call? How did that call go? What was the reaction to the person that you're speaking to when you put your proposal forward? Was there a pause? Was there a delay? Was there a change in their tone? Did they understand the concept? Did they say yes to you? Did they say no? Did they arrange a meeting? If they said no, why did they say no? Do you think it's because they didn't understand the concept? Is it because they were worried about something? Is they think that it's too risky? Did you kind of propose it in the best possible manner? These are the questions that you've got to be asking yourself, because unless you get over these hurdles, you're not going to get a yes. If you don't appraise, or you don't appraise the last phone call and you think, well, hang on, okay, this person didn't say yes to me because of this, this and this. So I need to change my approach. I need to reevaluate my approach so that the next person that I do speak to does understand the concept, and that as a result of that, they do want to work with me so that I can get to start working with this. And regardless where you are in your journey, you should be able to relate to this, because even 20 years on, I'm still reappraising all my stuff. Give me an example, the property investor app. I'm consistently appraising the way of our systems. So every time we're speaking to an agent, to work with an agent or work with a sourcer, looking at better ways how we can work together, looking at the ways that we can make it easier for people to work together. And this is all part of the process. So there we have it, guys. Just a short, sharp, bite-sized a day in the life of entrepreneur, of the ups and downs that we all go through. I do generally think that we are all very tough on ourselves, that when things don't go right, we start to instantly question ourselves, and that's part of human nature. But one thing that we should do is have the ability to pick ourselves up and say, you know what, there is light at the end of the tunnel. We are just going through a minor bad patch or a minor questioning patch. We have to rectify those questions and get ourselves out of it. And one thing that I tend to do is move myself away from the situation, go for a walk, go and do some exercise, come back to it with fresh eyes, and I find that the solution is sat right in front of us. So guys, hopefully that's inspired you. If you've got a problem, get away from it, come back to it, go and talk to someone about it. And you'll find that talking to someone really helps, because they may be able to help with that provide you with a solution or give you a different perspective on that. So hopefully you've enjoyed that session. As always, guys, if you want any more free content, you can go and watch any of my YouTube videos. We release a new video every Thursday at 4 p.m. So we release podcasts every Tuesday at 6 a.m. We release a YouTube video every Thursday at 4 p.m. As well as that, if you want to connect with me on social media, you can find me on all handles. So you can find me on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram and Twitter and Clubhouse, all under the handle of Arsh. Feel free to go and connect with me on social media. Happy to speak to anyone about anything. If you're going through a bit of a tough time in the day in the life of an entrepreneur, feel free to reach out. You know, on any of the social media channels, say, Arsh, any chance we can have a quick chat? More than happy to have a chat with anyone. And if I can inspire you anyway, that's probably one of my main purposes. So as well as that, if you haven't already done so, I mention this on every podcast, have you downloaded the Property Investor app? It's the UK's first property investment platform which showcases all kinds of deals all over the country. So whether you're looking for below market value deals, rent-to-rent deals, lease option deals, service accommodation deals, development opportunities, they're all there in the palm of your hand. All you've got to do is download the app by going to the App Store and typing in Property Investor, or if you're on a computer and you want to look at our website, you can go to www.propertyinvestorapp.co.uk. There we have it, guys. Hopefully you've enjoyed that session. Hopefully that's resonated with some of you. As always, guys, I wish you all to be safe, well and happy, and I look forward to speaking to you all soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
The large majority of people make a positive change if they take immediate action. So act now. Download the Property Investor app and join Arsh on his social media channels to excel your property journey.